Hi, I'm Anna, and welcome to the D5 Audible cheat sheet, where we continue with port. Once port has been fortified, everything that follows is about choice. Sweetness is already fixed, alcohol is already high and stable. What the producer decides next is how that wine will age, how it will be blended, and when it will be released. That's what creates styles. Let's start with the most fundamental split. Some pots are aged to preserve fruit, color, and power. Others are aged to encourage oxidation, softness, and complexity. Everything else sits on that axis. Ruby style pots are built around minimal oxidation. After fortification, these wines are aged in large vessels that limit oxygen contact. The goal is to retain deep color, fresh black fruit character, and firm structure. They are generally bottled relatively young, which keeps the style bold, sweet fruited, and approachable. Basic Ruby port is designed for early drinking and consistency. Reserve Ruby represents a selection of higher quality wines with greater concentration and balance, but still fruit driven in style. Late bottled vintage, or LBV, sits further along the spectrum. LBV is made from a single harvest but aged for longer in wood before bottling. This extended aging softens tannins and adds complexity while still preserving much of the fruit character. Some LBVs are filtered and bottled ready to drink, others are unfiltered and capable of further bottle aging. Vintage port represents the most age-worthy expression of this fruit-preserving approach. It is made from a single declared vintage, bottled after a relatively short period in cask, and intended to mature over many years in bottle. At release, these wines are powerful, deeply colored, and structured. Complexity is expected to develop slowly through bottle aging rather than through oxidative handling. Crusted port occupies a related but distinct space. It is a blend of wines from different years, bottled without filtration. Sediment forms in bottle, hence the name, and the wine is intended to age further before drinking. The emphasis here is on structure and development rather than immediate accessibility. Now let's turn to the oxidative side of the spectrum. Tawny style ports are defined by extended aging in wood with deliberate exposure to oxygen. Over time, color fades from deep ruby to amber, tannins soften, and aroma shift towards nuts, dried fruit, caramel, and spice. Basic tawny port may include wines that have seen some oxidative aging but are still relatively young and simple in style. Aged tawny ports, often labeled with age indications such as 10, 20, 30, or 40 years, are blends designed to match a consistent house style. These age statements are not literal, they signal a sensory profile, achieved by blending wines of different ages. Koyeta ports are a specific expression within the tawny family. They are made from a single harvest but aged oxidatively in wood for extended periods before bottling. Unlike vintage port, where aging happens mainly in bottle, Koyeta develops its character entirely in cask and is bottled ready to drink. White port follows the same fundamental logic as other ports, but starts with white grapes. Depending on production choices, white port can range from dry to sweet. Fortification timing determines residual sugar, and aging choices determine whether the style remains fresh and light or develops oxidative complexity. While historically less prominent, white port plays an important role in diversification and market positioning. Rosé port is a modern style produced with minimal skin contact to limit color and tannin extraction. It is designed to emphasize freshness and primary fruit and is bottled young. From a D5 perspective, its importance lies less in complexity and more in market adaptation. Across all of these styles, one principle never changes: blending is central. Different vineyards, different fermentations, and different aging components are combined to manage variation, ensure consistency, and create clearly defined products. Even in single vintage styles, blending decisions shape structure and balance. This diversity of port styles exists because fortification makes it possible. High alcohol allows wine to withstand long aging. Early sweetness provides balance even after decades. Oxidative handling becomes a creative tool rather than a flaw. For the D5 exam, this is the insight that matters. Port is not one wine with many names. It is a portfolio of styles, engineered through aging and blending to meet different quality levels, drinking windows, and market expectations. If you can explain not just what each style is, but why it exists, you are answering port questions the way the examiners intend. In the next episode, we step away from sugar driven structure entirely and look at a fortified wine where acidity is the backbone and where heat and oxidation are used deliberately rather than cautiously. That brings us to Madeira, and I'll see you on that next episode.